What's going on, guys? Welcome back everyone to another Advanced Warfare video, and if you've seen by the title already, we're going to be looking at all the elite variations in Advanced Warfare. So if you guys don't already know, when you unlock a supply drop or open one yourself, basically you get different variations, whether it's enlisted, professional, or elite, and elite is the more of the rarest variations you can get, and also looks the best, and it also has better weapon trade-offs where it lets you have more damage, but it puts the mobility or it puts the handling down. So there's usually a trade-off when it comes down to having an elite variation, and we're going to be looking at each elite variation in this game, and each weapon category. Let's say you have the BAL and the MK14. Each weapon has two elite variations on it. In this video, I'm going to be going through every single elite variation, and I will have it popping up on the screen with the stats itself. So if you enjoyed today's video, a like would be appreciated, and let's start off with the assault rifles. So we're going to be starting off with the BAL 27. It has an Obsidian Steed elite variation and also an Inferno elite variation as well. And as you can tell, the Obsidian Steed does sound pretty good. It's got +2 damage, mobility +1, but the rest is also kind of a not too much bad of a trade-off as you get that extra damage on the BAL. Moving over to the AK-12, you got the Finger Trap variation and also the RIP elite variations as well. Some of these names on these variations does seem kind of funny, but in a way they are pretty cool as well. Moving over to the ARX 160, it's got a Steel Bite elite variation and also a Damnation elite variation. I prefer the Steel Bite as you get more damage overall, and when it comes down to burst weapons, you do want the most damage. Moving over to the HBR A3, it's got Insanity elite variation, also a Bare Fist variation with it. For the IMR, it's got a Thunder Tusk and a Bore Strike elite variation. I prefer to have the Bore Strike just because it's got +2 range and +1 damage, and for a burst weapon, that's absolutely perfect. If you want to get the IMR, I prefer that one. Moving over to the MK14, it's got Eagle Eye and Eclipse elite variations, and I prefer to have the Eagle Eye because it gives you integrated quick draw grip, and it's also got +2 range. But you also got to keep in mind that if there's an integrated grip or something integrated in those weapons, it actually takes it up as a creator class slot. Personally, I thought it shouldn't do that, but it actually does. Moving over to the submachine guns, we're going to be looking at the KF5. It's got the Breakneck and the Spanner elite variations. Moving over to the MP11, it's got the Goliath and the Squeaker elite variations. I got to say, the MP11 Goliath sounds very good as it does give you +3 damage, and for a submachine gun, that's also very good, but personally, I prefer to have extra range, but damage is also good. Moving over to ASM1, it's got Strider and the Speakeasy elite variations. Both the stats on those do look somewhat similar. Moving over to the SN6, it's got the Money elite variation, also the third variation. Now, these names are getting kind of funny, so that's also good. Moving over to the SAC-3, it's got Pain and Suffering variation, as well as a Blood and Glory elite variations. They also kind of look a little bit about the same. I prefer the Blood and Glory, but when it comes down to a submachine gun, you want more damage, you don't want the damage to go down. Moving over to the AMR9, it's got the Pro Pipe variation and also the Dynamo variation, and that is it for the submachine guns. But moving over to the sniper rifles, you've got the Lynx Kingpin and also the Lynx Tac Driver variations to the weapon. For the Moors, you got the Silver Bullet and the Doctor. Everyone just talks about the Moors Silver Bullet, so I'm guessing it is good, but as I can tell just by the stats, it looks very nice because it gives you +2 damage, +1 accuracy, and they're actually a better trade-off as it gets rid of your fire rate and your handling. Moving over to the NA45, you got the Screamin', which is what I have, and also the Ravager. Those stats kind of look a little bit decent, but I prefer the Ravager over the Screamin'. Moving over to the Atlas 20mm, you got the Vertice elite variation and the Snapper variation with it. Moving over to the shotguns in this list, you got the TAC-19 Bang Stick and also the TAC-19 Sledgehammer. It's kind of ironic how I find that the TAC-19 Sledgehammer is better than the Bang Stick because it does give you extra magazine capacity and more accuracy, which is good for a shotgun. Moving over to the S12, you got the Whirlwind and the Tiger Blood variation. For the Bulldog, you got the Manatee and the Face Hammer variation to it, and those stats kind of look a little bit similar, but the Manatee's got integrated target enhancer. Moving over to the heavy weapons, the EM1, which is that laser weapon, it's got the Poner elite variation, also the Polar Vortex elite variation. Moving over to the Pyotech, it's got a Loophole Elite variation, also an Exploit Elite variation. For the XMG, it's got a Bacon and Eggs Elite variation, and also a Bread and Butter Elite variation. The names on that weapon does sound pretty cool, quite like that. The EPM3 has a Parsec Elite variation, also a Bonafide Elite variation. The name on that one isn't as good, kind of sounds a little bit funny. Moving to the Mill, it's got a Whalehorn Elite variation, also a Chickenary Elite variation. Moving over to the pistols now, starting with the Atlas 45, it's got the Oathbreaker variation and also the Huckleberry variation. Quite like both the names, they sound quite nice. The RW1 has the Rail Driver variation and also the Holiday variation. Both those names also sound quite nice as well. The MP44-3 Gratch has a One Wood variation and also a Feeling Lucky. The names on that one seems alright, but I gotta say some of the names on this are pretty funny. Moving over to the PDW, it's got a Crusher variation and also a Chucker Elite variation on that weapon. Now we're moving over to the launchers, and now the Elite variations don't do anything. All it does is it gives it looks to the launchers. So you've got the Firehawk and the Nighthawk Elite. For the Moors, you got the Oppressor and the Ignition Elite. For the Mayhem, you got the Fused and the Bull for the Elite. And moving over to the specials, this is the same thing as the launchers. They don't actually do anything to make the weapon better, they just make the weapon look more nice. So for the specials, for the Heavy Shield, you got the Salvation, which is Elite, and also the Nugget, which is also Elite. Then you got the MDL, which is what I have. You got the Backdraft, and you got the Shockwave. And for the Crossbow, you got the Righteous and the Conqueror. So that has been the video for today. If you guys have enjoyed, a like would be appreciated. And what I want to know down below in the comment section is, how many guns do you have Elite and what guns do you have Elite? I don't have the most Elite weapons. I've only got like 2, 3, or 4 Elite weapons in this game so far. I would like it if my luck was a little bit better. But if you guys want to check out the full stats of each weapon, the link will be down below in the description to a form with these stats. So once again, if you have enjoyed, a like would be appreciated. Let's even get 70+ likes on today's video. That'd be sweet. Hopefully you've all enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys later. Globe out.